Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, colleagues, I want first of all to echo the appreciations that has been forthcoming from Pacific leaders to Your Excellency Prime Minister of Fiji, and through you to your leaderships, all Fiji ministers and people of Fiji, for your leadership and your commitment to taking on this big burden on behalf of the Fiji people who are already suffering from impacts of climate change, but as well as on behalf of ourselves, Pacific Island countries. Just a week ago or two ago, you were also championing the issues of oceans in the United Nations as co-president of the United Nations Conference on Oceans. So thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your leadership. Thank you also for your commitment and sympathy expressed for the people of Kiribati and Tuvalu in times of disasters. We welcome that offer. I know Kiribati has purchased lands in Fiji. They have more money than Tuvalu has, but I would certainly welcome the confirmation of that piece of land, perhaps in Delma or near New Serua, so we can start constructing our movement here, Prime Minister. But equally, I mean, more seriously, on behalf of the people of Tuvalu, I want to express our deep appreciation for that care and sympathy. And also to say, as you have correctly said, we small islands may be at the forefront of impacts, but this is an issue for the whole world. This is an issue that the whole global community must take seriously to address, not only because small islands like Tuvalu and Kiribati and Marshall Islands would be submerged based on the predictions, but consequently, at some stage, everybody, whether you are on a large or small nations, countries, you will feel the impact of climate change. And this is a call for the international community. And therefore, I want to again highlight and echo those things. 6 points I want to highlight. I'm hearing my bell as well. The first one, we have described the issues and the cause and effects of climate change perhaps well more than enough. It is now time for the global community to take actions, and COP23 is critical for us. We from this region must not lose that opportunity, because it is the time that we will come under your presidency of COP23, and the whole world will look at us. How are we going to push that presidency for concrete, doable outcomes? Outcomes that will be focused on ambition, on high ambition, but also with urgency. No more time to lose and waste on descriptions. We know. Therefore, I have 6 suggestions to make. The first one, we must ensure COP23 comes up with a strong facilitative dialogue or clear pathway on how we're going to handle that political facilitative dialogue in 2018, so that when we come to COP24, we know exactly the rules of that dialogue, both the technical rules as well as the political outcomes for that dialogue. I think we need to start up the reviewing process so we know exactly that parties to the Paris Agreement are implementing their commitments, are doing their commitments too, so that the whole global community will reach our target of 1.5 degrees Celsius. We cannot go lower than that. And I must insist that we, this group, must put this as an outcome. Let the others struggle around the 2 degrees and they're sort of less ambitious. But I think we must be as ambitious as possible, because as you correctly put it, Prime Minister, our vulnerable island countries will go under the water if nothing is done urgently at this stage. So we cannot wait. The second point that I want to put on the floor is that we must reassert and make it clear the connection between climate change and security. That connection is buried under the plethora of science and many other discussions. And I think we need to highlight this connection between climate change and security and even seek for the Secretary General, the United Nations Secretary General to appoint a special rapporteur on climate change and security at the United Nations. We must also insist that climate change is included as a permanent agenda of the Security Council. We'll vote only those who support that vision into the Security Council. And we have 14 members with 14 votes from the Pacific. So that, and the third point that I want to put on floor is the necessity for a Pacific insurance facility. This is for climate change, not disasters. This is different from the Sendai framework. And just last week we had a workshop in Samoa. I think we need to work further on this, Prime Minister, so that this facility is established as a matter of urgency in the Pacific, so that when cyclone like Winston and Pam hits the Pacific again, at least we know the process, we know where to go to. We didn't have to wait for donations. And the other point, this is my fourth point, we need to develop in COP23 a program of work that focuses on the connection between oceans and climate change. These two are inseparable, because we know once you say islands, islands means oceans. There is no island without oceans. So people are saying there's no reference to oceans in the Paris Agreement. Yes, we know, but we put islands there because they are with oceans. And therefore, that cannot be an excuse. I, as a negotiator who was there in Paris, we put that language to be like that. And we also, the fourth point, we need a program of work. The fifth point, the adaptation financing. I think Prime Minister, you've already said something about that. But in particular, the adaptation fund. The adaptation fund of the Kyoto Protocol must be approved to serve the Paris Agreement. And that is our survival fund, in fact. That is a survival fund of SIDS, of AOSIS. We pushed for the establishment of that fund. And in order to do that, we also need to have the second commitment period of the Kyoto Protocol, the Doha Amendment, in some other words, to enter into force. I encourage all Pacific Island parties of the Convention and Paris to please sign on and ratify this amendment of the Kyoto Protocol, because therein lies the adaptation fund, our source of livelihood, of survival rather. Final point is about the U.S. Withdrawal from Paris Agreement. Of course, we fully respect the decision of the American people. That's their own decision. But we must encourage that policy would make the U.S. confined to fossil. We'll leave the U.S. behind while the rest of the world will move forward. So as a friend, we call again to the U.S. to come forward and don't leave us. We'll work together so that we can paddle our canoe together and move to a more sustainable future for the Pacific Island countries. I look forward to the outcomes of this meeting. I thank you very much.